Hello and welcome to this tutorial. Today we are talking about UI controls. I will show you where you find the controls in the product designer, how you work with them, how you can nest them inside several panels, how you can access different properties, and you work with 6 lows. Let's go.
So for this tutorial now, we build upon the results of a previous tutorial, the tutorial for components. And right here you see all the results that we made for the components. And right now it's all about controls. The controls you find in the design component. So the first thing we do is we click upon design. And right here you have the canvas and the list of controls. This list, however, is a nested list, so it's a tree. And you can add several controls to that. So up here, there's a plus button where I can add a control. And right now, this is what we do. We could, for instance, add a panel. So it is up here. And I can add another panel. It's here as well. So have two panels besides each other. And if you click on that, you also see that it follows in the tree. And you can click here as well. For all the details of this panel, you see the properties down here. So here I have the properties already, and you can change them here. So for instance, I could change the background. Let's see, it's a blue background. You can use any color definition that you know from HTML. So I can use it in name form, or I can use it in a hex code or a small hex code, 234 for instance, or I can also use it with other functions like RGBA. This is red, green, blue, and alpha. So I can use something like this, and then the alpha channel, which is between 0 and 1. And here I have it with the transparency. And for this panel, it's very important to know how you can use it with the sizes. So you could either change the height. Let's say it's 300 pixels, and it changes accordingly. Or instead of that, and that's very cool, you can use the flex. The flex is share of the given space that this panel should use. For instance, if I give it 1, so everything which is not 0 makes the flex to be active. And for the second panel, I could use 2, for instance. That means the second panel takes 2 times, or let's say twice as much as the panel 1. This is how you can do it. Up here in the parent panel, you see the orientation, and you find it right here. So if you change the orientation from vertical to horizontal, then it is this way. And as soon as I'm in a panel, I could nest it again. So let's start to create some controls. There are several ways to create a control. One is, for instance, I take a component and I just drag and drop them where I want this to be. And because of the type of the component, it already knows which control can be made out of that. So right now it's just a graphic view, and I edit, and here it is. Done. Another way of creating a control is I click here at this plus button, and for instance, I just want to make a pick list for these animals, which is a data view, and I add it. So here it is already. But in that case, of course, the 6 lows are not automatically created. So I have to create them on myself. There's an extra video for that, how 6 lows are created and how they work and what you have to be careful about. Right now, I just show you how it works. So every time something here changes, this is the event, then in this slot, the entries should be updated with the content of this table. And I need to make a mapping as well. So what is in this content? Yeah, it guesses right, and I just have to confirm it, and here it is. And now all the animals and the pictures, everything in this table is already updated. The next thing is, of course, I have to make it, I have to wire it so that the user can work with it. So every time the user clicks into this list, then I want the animal selection component to be updated with the value. That's right. And I want it the other way around as well. So every time this selection is updated, I want right here to be the selection. Yeah, that's already done. So as soon as this is done, I can change the picture of that. Okay. Let's take a closer look to this data view. Right here, again, you see the properties, and there are some important things right here. For instance, this is the property where you can refer to the CSS class. This is a separate video how you can use CSS and style it very beautifully. And right here, you just give the CSS class, or you also can use a simple command for that to, yeah, for instance, auto height, so that it automatically adapts to the height that you want it to be. Okay. The next thing that we could do is we could make another control for the text. So every time the user enters the text, so it's updated in the graphic as well. So I just drag and drop it here and I say it's a text box. And here it is. And here I give it a better margin so that it's more beautiful. And here we go. And now we want to create two other controls. Right here, I want to have the price. And besides that, I want to have a checkout button. So the first thing I do is I create a panel to pack them together. And then I change the orientation of the panel so that they are side by side, horizontal. And then in here, I create two controls, one for the price and the other for the button. For the price, I right now have one component with just a number, but I want the price to be formatted in a certain way. So I create another component right here, which is a value component. Let's call it price format. I'll put it into pricing. And here I just convert the number into a text. So I refer to price, which is this price component here, and I convert it to text. And I can give it a formation string. Start with a euro, it's 0.00, and that's about it. Shift enter, and I see the results. You see it, it's beautifully formatted with 2 digits and a currency symbol. So I go right here, and I simply drag and drop it here. And because this is nothing to edit, it's just something to be displayed, I give it a label. And here it is. For this label, I can make the font bigger. So I go here into font and I say it should be a 20-point Verdana. Here it is. And let's, vertically in the center, like here, and it's right aligned. Something like that. And on this side, I give it the checkout button. And now we need to create a checkout button. It works the same way. You just add it and you use a button. And here it is. And for this button, you give it a name first before we go ahead. Put in cart. Here it is. Some margin, 20 pixels, something like this. Give it a flags. Same thing we do here as well. I give it a flags as well. Make it a little bit smaller. The height is just, let's say, 80, something like this. And it's important for this put in cart button, because right now it's just a button, that you give it the right signal. So to do that, you create a new signal. So every time that this button is pushed, then you need to go to the checkout. And this checkout is in the checkout component right here. You say do checkout. And right here, you give it the name of the checkout. I just say certain name, let's say shopware 6, and connect. To understand it better, right here, there is this checkout component, and here you can create some shops. For instance, I create a shopware 6 shop with a certain name in it. let's say shopware 6, and this is exactly the name that I used in the checkout button, where it picks the right checkout. And everything in here controls how the configured product is passed into the shop. For this, there's an extra tutorial, so I just refer you to that. Yes, and as soon as we are here, let's make it a little bit more beautiful to change this color. So here we are. And every time I change something here, I can work with it, and it changes the price and everything accordingly. So right now we just were working with panels. Panels is a method where you can divide the given space into different areas. But what's not possible with panels is that you put some controls on top of each other. This can be done with a layer. So we go to the highest panel and add a layer to it. Here's a layer, and it's right here. I just put it on the right side. So it's over here. Make it a little bit bigger. Let's say 300, and the height, let's say it's 600, and give it some offset. Offset, let's say 30 pixels, and from top 30 pixels as well. A little bit wider. So here we are. And now I could, for instance, take this this panel that we used right here and move it there. So I just grab it and put it into the layer. It's right here. And I place it there. And now I can delete the panel that's in the background. And so now I have everything in this new box, and every background is shining through if you have it transparent, and you can work with the layer and have some fun with it. But now I want to show you something else that you can do with this graphic view right here. First of all, we make it a little bit bigger, so we change the flags to this, and even more bigger, so that the layer is, let's say, 750. And now let's try to make this graphic view interactive. So I go into the graphic view, and for that there is a certain property where you can make interactive content. That's fun. Here is interactive visuals. So here you find several ways that you can turn on and turn off. So as you know from the components tutorial, that in a graphic view you can have several visuals, sort of layers. So several visuals that you can address. And here we had one visual, and this visual was my personal text. That's how it was called, my personal text. And now I want to allow this personal text to be interactively moved around. I don't want it to allow to be deleted. I want to allow to resize it, to rotate it, and it should not be able to be clicked right now. So I put this to false, because you could click it as well and create a signal where you can react with some certain behavior to it. So right now, this is already it. So I controlled how this can be interactively changed. And now you can take this text and move it around, or you can rotate it, and so on. And it even is fully functional. Yeah. And now we could use this space in the background to present some product. I uploaded a 3D file into the asset manager. You find it here. Here's a 3D file. And then in here, I create a 3D viewer. I take this panel right here, add a 3D viewer. And here it is already. And I can make it screen filling, which is not screen filling right now, because as you remember, there was another panel right here. This is panel 3 that we can drop. Yes. And here's the 3D model. And when I change the color, just drop the color of this panel. And make some transparent color, let's say 100, 100, 100, and opacity, let's say 0.3. Then you see through, and you also see the 3D model behind. So I can work with it, see that everything changes accordingly. You see the price, and I can change the name. I can drag it around. Yes, and I can play with it. Well, and this is already everything from this tutorial. There are some other tutorials that are very good for you to watch right now. One is the tutorial for paintables. So this sticker that we created right here, we could put on top of this 3D model here. And this is shown in the tutorial paintable. And the next tutorial that you could watch is the tutorial for CSS, where you can make this user interface even more beautiful. So have fun with it, and I'll see you in the next one.